Hello students, I am Sachin Prakash and I teach and mentor students in chemistry for IIT. I believe that the real confidence which is required to crack this IIT exam will come only when you are confident in tackling good problems. And that clarity and understanding of concepts will only develop when you are really comfortable in handling these problems. So this video contains the paper discussion which I have conducted in my uh, classes online. Okay, and a lot of good doubts are there which I have discussed here. It will be helping you people in understanding, developing an understanding in how to approach and tackle good problems. Okay, and if you like this, if you found this paper discussion video to be useful and interesting, you can, like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, which will surely, motivate me to add some more useful videos of this type. Okay, because ultimately it's, this is just an effort, honest effort, small honest effort from my side to help the student, uh, help my students as well as other students also in their ITJ preparation. So let us begin with this paper discussion. Okay.
So today we are going to start the paper discussion of AFT 9, paper 2. Paper 1 we have already discussed. So 19, 20 and 20, 19 and 21st, two questions. Which are the options you want me to discuss?
Sir, in the 19th one, explain option B, no?
Option B. You see, generally electron affinity is the energy released. Okay. So electron gain enthalpy, and electron gain enthalpy is basically the energy absorbed. Okay. So typically, if electron affinity is positive, this means that delta electron gain enthalpy will be negative. Are you getting a point? Now you see, most of the atoms, need to form, bonds. They need electrons. For most of the elements, the electron affinity values are positive only. This means for most of the elements, the electron gain enthalpy are negative. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
No, sir.
See, when oxygen, okay, or say let's say chlorine takes an electron and becomes Cl minus, then energy is released. Okay, we write it like this. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
If the energy is released, the delta H for this reaction is electron gain enthalpy. If energy is released, this means that delta H will be negative. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So you see, for most of the elements, energy is released when it is taken an electron, because most of the elements want to make a bond, means they want some electrons. Okay, but then there are certain exceptions. Okay, what are those exceptions? Elements which are having stable configurations. Okay, they, some of them are having, some of them don't want that electron to disturb their configuration. So I have given you here the list of all the elements which will be having a negative electron affinity, okay, or positive electron gain enthalpy. So noble gas configuration means helium, neon, argon, okay. Okay, then krypton, xenon, and radon. All these will be having negative electron gain enthalpy, or negative electron affinity. Are you getting a point? They don't want that electron. If you want to give them the electron, you have to give extra energy to them. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So electron acceptance will be endothermic in these cases. So apart from noble gas configuration, this is totally experimental or data based. Okay. Next, zinc, cadmium, or mercury. They have pseudo noble gas configuration. So in these cases also the experimental values of electron affinities are found to be negative, or electron gain enthalpies are found to be positive. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Similarly, beryllium and magnesium. Okay. In these cases, the electron affinity is what you say as negative, because they are having like fully filled S2 configurations. Okay, and S2 configurations. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
And lastly, in group 15, nitrogen and then manganese. Nitrogen is having a P3 configuration, which is half filled, and manganese is having a D5 configuration. These are found to have negative electron affinity. Okay, so you see, which elements are having negative electron affinity, that is a purely experimental thing. Okay, you can explain it, but you can explain why they are having negative electron affinity on the basis of the stability of electronic configurations. Are you getting my point? If electronic configuration is highly stable, then it will not like to accept an electron. So if you want to give them an electron, you have to give energy to the system. Are you getting my point?
Sir, in the nitrogen, all the group, like all the elements in nitrogen group will have a half-filled electronic configuration.
All are having, but only nitrogen is found to show negative electron affinity. The rest of them are having positive. It's totally data and experiment based. Okay. So that's why I have given you the list of all the elements which are having negative electron affinity on the periodic table. Are you getting a point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 19 is done. After this, so in this 19, option C, liquid bismuth expands, it forms solid. That is correct. Ice and bismuth, these are the, these substances will have more volume in the solid state compared to liquid state. Ice, so we can say both are having like open cage type of structures. That's why. Are you getting the point? So the volume occupied in solid state is more than volume occupied in liquid state. Okay. 19 is done. 20th.
Sir, everything will expand when it turns into a solid, no?
No. Everything expands when it turns into liquid. Only a few exceptions are there.
Okay. Sorry, sir.
Okay. So 20th is done. After that, 21st. No, sorry, 20th. 19 is done. 20th.
20th option, yes, sir.
Option A, yeah. You see, I have, if you remember chemical bonding, I have discussed something called Bent's rule. Okay. So I discussed Bent's rule explaining the hybridization, non-uniform hybridization. Now you see, a modified version of Bent's rule says that if you are having more electronegative substituents and you are having different substituents attached to the central atom, if you are having same type of substituent attached to the central atom, then all of them will be occupying hybrid orbitals of equal p character. Are you getting my point? Yes or no? So if I am having CCl4, then all will be occupying hybrid orbitals of sp3 type. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But if I replace one of the chlorine by fluorine, more electronegative element will prefer a hybrid orbital of higher p character. Are you getting my point?
But aren't all of them sp3?
Huh? So you see, when technically all of them are sp3, But when they are, attaching themselves to the substituent, then there is a, like transfer of like p electron density from one hybrid orbital to another. So we can say that this hybrid orbital can have, say, that's like hypothetically it can be having sp 3.5 and this can have sp 2.5. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, means this orbital is getting a higher p character value and this is having a lower p character value. More electronegative group should have higher, should take a hybrid orbital with higher p character. Okay, so you see F will take hybrid orbital with higher p character, and since it is either attached to fluorine or it is attached to carbon. So carbon having less electronegative, we prefer hybrid orbital with less p character. Okay, now you see more p character with more bond length. Are you getting my point?
Why, sir?
Because it will be longer, no?
Okay.
Okay, so you see, if I'm talking about a carbon-carbon, more is the number of fluorine groups. Okay, less will be the p character of more fluorine groups. Less is the p character of hybrid orbital attached to carbon. Are you getting my point?
Yes.
And lesser is the p character, shorter is the bond length. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is thing. Okay, so I discussed this concept way back when you're very, very kids. Okay, so I don't expect that you people will be remembering those things, But this is a good question for discussion point of view. Now you should be able to answer these type of questions. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So after A, B, C, and D are looking easy, but you can ask. Any problems in options B, C, and D? See, these questions are equivalent to 4 questions. Are you getting my point? Just it is a mirage that it is a one single question. Okay. So whenever you have multiple correct questions, attempt them only after you have done all single answer questions, because they are actually longer questions than single answer. So always integer type questions you should attempt first and single correct. Okay. Yeah, so 20th, any more options?
20C, sir.
20C. Okay, yeah, 20C is good. So you see, XeF4 will be having 4 90-degree pairs. You want me to draw the structure? You see, Xe. Okay, it is a square planar thing. So this is 190 degrees, 290 degrees, 390 degrees, 490 degrees. Getting my point? In case of PCl5, you see, vertically you will be having 3 bond angles, 90 degrees, and similarly 3 in the down. 3 up plus 3 down, total 690 degrees. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Similarly, if you are talking about XeF6, so you see the axial groups, they will be forming 90-degree angles with the groups which are on the plate. So this will form 4 90-degree angles with each of the 4 bonds on the plate. Okay, so 4 here, 4 up, plus This 4 will be up and then this 4 down. Thus, in the plane you have 4 90-degree angles. 4 in plane. The total will be 12 90-degree angles. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So now you can answer this question. Okay?
Sir, in case of XeF6, there will be a lone pair left on Xe, no?
Yes. Technically there
So
is
won't it start?
no, in XeF6 it's PF6 minus all actually, not XeF6. My mistake. Okay, it's PF6 minus. PF6 minus will be octahedral, just like PCF6 minus.
And XeF6 will not have all 90 degrees, no?
Now, XeF6 won't have 90 degrees, it is distorted octahedral structure.
Okay.
Okay. It should be PF6 minus. Okay, so this is clear to all of you? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, yeah, 43 people. I am so glad, who are there, like, yes, all good people are there. Then some lazy people are not attending the paper discussions. Manjari is not there. And Bhuvna is not there. Where are the friends of Bhuvna? No one. Okay, 21. Is it out? Here it should be, option D should be C is this, not D. There is no D in this whole question. It's a misprint, it should be C is this structure, which will be correct. Yeah, in 21, you want me to explain it?
Explain, sir.
Okay. You see, when you are doing reduction, this CHO becomes CH2OH. The moment this becomes CH2H, then there can be a plane of symmetry depending on whether these configurations are matching or not. Because up and down, both are CH2H. So you see, only in this case you will be having a plane of symmetry when this is converted into CH2. Are you getting my point? In this configuration, there won't be any plane of symmetry. This will be also no plane of symmetry. In this again, you have a plane of symmetry. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So this cannot be A and B. Because A and B give the same optically active alditol. Okay. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you see, when you are talking about A and B, they yield the same optically active alditol. So if this becomes CH2OH, you see these two configurations will give the same alditol. Okay, it is something like this. Okay, so here CH2OH is there. Okay, and here also, I'm just writing it. So this is like OH, 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 and H. Sorry. No, it's OH, H, H, and H. Okay. And in this case, it is OH, 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 NH. Here and OH here. And you have OH, OH. Okay, I'm just removing the H. Okay, now you see these two represent the same molecule. How? If you rotate this by 180 degrees in the plane, you will get this molecule. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
If you rotate the Fisher projection by 180 degrees and you get a same molecule, then both configurations are identical. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So you see A and B can have these because this will be given optically. Both of them do not have a plane of symmetry. Okay. Now A and B will give different phenyl osazones. Okay, you see phenyl osazone formation we are saying it involves C1 and C2. This is C1 and this is C2. Both, so the top two carbons are involved. Okay, so if I'm writing the phenyl osazone, okay, these two carbons are involved in the osazone formation. Okay, even if you don't remember the mechanism, it is okay. Just remember that the first and the second carbon. So these three carbons are not affected. Okay, if I'm writing not affected. So if two, two of the monosaccharides are given the same phenyl osazone, means the bottom three chiral center configuration should be same. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you see, if I have told you how to write the chiral center configurations, okay, in code. So you see, if OH is on the right, I label it as 1. If it is on the left, it is 0. Sorry, if H is on the right, it is 0. So from here to here, the code is like last three carbons is 1, 1, 1. This case, it is 1, 0, 0. Okay, this case, it is again 1, 1, 1. Last three, and this is 1, 0, 0. So you see, B and D will give the same osazone, A and C will give the same osazone. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you see A and B will give different phenyl osazones. D and C give same phenyl osazone but different aldetones. Okay, so you see B and C both are having this 100 configuration, so they will be giving the same phenyl osazone. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So A, B, and C you have found out.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So this is 21. After this, 22 and 23. So 23 is so very easy, but 22 you can ask. And 23 also you can ask if you have a doubt. 23 is easy. Element in the native states will have 0 heat of formation. That is taken to be the reference value for enthalpy, the formation enthalpies. And for H plus also, for ions, H plus formation enthalpy is taken to be the reference. It is taken to be 0. Carbon in its diamond state is not the native state. Carbon in graphite state is the native state. Is it clear? 23. So all 4 statements are correct in this case. Getting my point? Yes, no.
How to say it is greater than 0 or less than 0?
See, okay, let me just have some space. It's very important to have space in life. Okay. Now you see, carbon graphite to carbon diamond. This is an endothermic reaction. You have to give heat in order to convert carbon graphite to, and delta H is positive here. Okay, so you see, delta H reaction is delta G naught formation of diamond minus delta G naught formation of graphite. And this is 0. So delta G naught formation of diamond is equal to delta H naught reaction. This is positive, so this is positive.
Okay.
Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is very good. 22 is a doubt. Yes, no. See. 22 is a doubt. Srinidhi, 22. Did you do it in the class exam? Sanatan, Srinidhi. Shruti, did you do 22 in the exam? No one will say anything, online. 22, is there any doubt? Yes, no, something.
No, sir.
See, when you are heating a dilute H2SO4, estrus will get hydrolyzed to COH and C double bond N. You see, wherever you have a C double bond N group on dilute acid, it will undergo hydrolysis. You RCHO plus R dash NH2. So you will be getting this type of compound first, plus C2H5NH2 plus C2H5OH. And since these are all beta keto acids, they will lose CO2. This thing will go out. Okay. So you'll be left with this. All 4 CO2s will be going on. Are you getting my point? This, and this. All are having a beta keto group. Is it clear? And you will be getting C2H5NH2 and C2H5OH. Now, B gives positive carbylamine test, means it is an amine. C gives a positive iodoform test, so it is C2H5OH. And A can show tautomerism, okay, because it is having alpha hydrogen, which is sp3. Are you getting my point? Yes, no? 22.
Yes, sir.
Okay. 24. Huh?
So 24th option A.
Huh. See, if all the things are present in stoichiometric quantities, then it will start together and end together. That is the total meaning. So they will have the same half-life. At the end of the reaction, if the reactants are taken in stoichiometric quantities, then they will be completely consumed. Are you getting my point? If they start together, they will end together, so the midpoints will also be, achieved at the same time. Getting my point?
No, sir.
See, suppose you are having 2A plus CB giving 5C. Suppose you started with 2 moles of this and 3 moles of this, and 0 moles of this. Okay, at T is equal to 0. Now, say in 10 seconds, A is going to from 2 to 1. Okay, it is consumed by half. Then what is happening to B? If 1 mole of A is going, 1 minute, 2A plus 3B going 5C. So I'm starting with 2 moles of this and 3 moles of this. Okay. So say in 10 seconds, half of A is getting consumed. This 2 is going to 1. Now see, if 2 moles of A is reacting, 3 moles of B is reacting. So if 1 mole of A is reacting, how many moles of B will react? 3 by 2. Are you getting a point?
Okay.
So how much of B will be left? 3 minus 3 by 2, that is 1.5. So you see in 10 seconds, A became half, B also became half, because it was taken in stoichiometric quantity. Are you getting my point? Yes or
yes,
no?
sir.
Okay. And you see, 2 moles of A is giving 5 moles of C. So you see, 1 mole of A will give 2.5 moles of C. Okay. So you see, total amount of, so you see, half of the reactant product is also formed in the same time. Are you getting a point? So this half-life we are only defining with respect to the reactants only. If you take them in stoichiometric quantity, their half-life will be same. If you take them in non-stoichiometric quantities, their half-life will be different. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other doubt? I think B, C, and D are totally obvious. K is equal to, yes, 23rd option B. Yeah, delta H naught formation of H plus aqueous is 0. That is defined. This is taken to be reference for ions in aqueous solution. Are you getting a point? Whoever was there, please do not write on chat, just be.
Yes.
Yes. 24, any other doubt? See, individual rate K for the reaction is equal to individual rate constant by their stoichiometric coefficient. So K will be equal to K by 2 is equal to Kb by 3 is equal to Kc by 5. Now you can do all the stuff. And since order is not equal to molecularity, see the molecularity is looking like 5, but order is only 3. If order is not equal to molecularity, this means it is not a elementary reaction. It's a complex reaction. 24 is done. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 25. 25 I will discuss a bit later. Okay, it is a long question. So 26.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So let us see 26. You see you have 1122 tetrachloroethane. Means you have CH, Cl, 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 Cl. And you are treating it as zinc dust. So basically this will lead to formation of alkyne. Dehalogenation reaction. And this is a terminal alkyne. This on reaction with AgNO3 ammoniacal. Yes, Ag C triple bond CAg. It is a white precipitate. Okay, now you see if you are starting with X grams of this. Okay, so how many moles you are starting with? X by. Can you find out the weight of this 35.5 into 4. Let me calculate it. If the time is over, just join it again. Plus, you are having 2 carbons, is 24 plus 2 oxygens, 2. It is 168. It is X by 168 moles here, X by 168 moles here, and X by 168 moles here. Okay, into. So if I want weight, I have to multiply it by molar mass. Molar mass will be 2 into Ag, means 2 into 108 plus 2 into carbon, means 24, so into 240. This is equal to 100. So this will go 10 times, this will go 7 times, so X is equal to 70. Are you getting my point? Yes or no? 26. Are you getting this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. After this, question number 27 is a doubt. This is 27. See here, it should be red phosphorus plus HI. That will be the reducing agent. Then it will be, you will be getting hexane. And then, so the real question is, what will be the number of isomers when you are doing monobromination of hexane? So you'll be getting like 1, 2, 3 only because it is a symmetrical molecule. So you'll get 3, and then for each you have to see what are the enantiomers and diastereomers. So since there is only one chiral center form, so you'll have only enantiomers. So this will be one structural isomer, another and another. This will have D plus L, so 2. This will have D plus L, so 2. Okay. So total 5 isomers will be formed. But when you're talking about fractions, we have to consider an enantiomeric pair as a single product. Okay. Because both enantiomers will have the same melting point. It will be 3 fractions and 5 products. So XY is 35. Are you getting this point? 27?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think this is going to get stopped in any minute. Yeah, we are live again. So 27 is done, 26 is done, 28. Is it out? Say yes, no, something.
Yes, sir.
Actually, 28 is a bit lengthy question, but okay, let us see. You see, the sequence of reaction is as follows. Okay, you are having CO and it is reacting with I2O5. So you will be getting 5 CO2 plus I2. This much you are getting. Now you see, this iodine has to be estimated. So we are treating it with hypo. Okay, but I didn't know how much of iodine is there in the sample. So I use excess of hypo. Okay, so I take this many milliequivalent knowing that all of iodine will be reacted. Are you getting this point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Since I took excess of hypo, some of the hypo is remained as extra. Are you getting my point? Okay.
Yes.
Now, this extra hypo has to be determined. So I am again treating it with some of iodine so that it is totally consumed. Are you getting my point? So if so it is given that the iodine which is consumed in the last step is 2 ml of 0.009 molar iodine. So N factor of I2 will be 2 in the iodine hyporeactions. So it will be 2 into 0.009. It will be 0.036 MEQs. Are you getting this step?
Yes, sir.
So if the milliequivalence of iodine is 0.03, the milliequivalence of extra hypo is also 0.036. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Now you started with, now in the hypoiodine reaction, the N factor of hypo is as what? This to everyone is clear? Are you clear with this?
Yes, sir.
So you see, N factor of this of hypo is 1. So what are the milliequivalents with which we are starting? 1 into 8 into 0.01. It is 0.080 MEQs. Okay. So how much of hypo is consumed in the first step? 0.080 minus 0.036 is 0.044 MEQs. Up to this, are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you see, whatever hypo is consumed in this milliequivalent is consumed in this step is also the milliequivalents of I2.
Yes, sir.
Now you see, you have 0.0044 MEQs of iodine, which is reacting with hypo. So what are the millimoles of iodine? N factor will be 2 for this reaction. Are you getting my point? Yes or no? Getting my point? N factor will be 2 for iodine plus Na2H2O3. For this reaction, N factor of iodine is 2 only. Yes or no?
2 per atom, no, sir.
No, 2 overall. You see, I2 plus 2 electrons gives 2 I minus. So for 1 mole of iodine, you are using 2 moles of electrons. So N factor is 2 only.
Okay.
Okay. So you see, if I know that N factor is 2, then I can calculate the millimoles of iodine. That would be 0.044 by 2. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
I need confirmation from you people on each and every step. I don't trust whether you people are knowing or not. Okay. Now you see, we cannot equate the milliequivalent of iodine which is produced from this reaction with the milliequivalent of I2 which is used in the next reaction. Why? Because here the N factor of iodine will be different. It will be 10 in this case. Okay, where in the next case the N factor of iodine is 2. So we cannot equate the milliequivalents of the S2O3 reaction with the milliequivalent of the I2O5 reaction for iodine. Okay, but we can always equate the millimoles. Are you getting my point? You can always equate the millimoles in a sequential reaction, irrespective of whether the N factor of that molecule remains same or not. Getting my point or not? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this means the millimoles of iodine which is found in the first reaction is 0.022. Now we have to only focus on the first reaction. Now you see, 5CO plus I2O5 gives 5CO2 plus I2. This means 5 moles of CO is giving 1 mole of iodine. So you see, if you are having 0.1, if you are having 1 mole of iodine, it is reacting with 5 moles of CO. If you have 0.022 millimoles of iodine, it will be reacting with 5 into 0.022 millimoles of CO. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and once this is clear, this is basically 0.11 millimoles of CO, and if we are calculating weight, it will be 0.11 into 10 to the minus 3 moles into 28 grams of CO. 10 to the minus 3 grams will be milligrams, so it is 0.11 into 28, it is 3.08 milligrams of CO. Are you getting up to this point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you have gotten up to this point, you see this much of CO is coming from 20-liter sample of a gas. So 20 liter contains 3.08 mg, so 1 liter will contain 3.08 by 20 milligrams, which is 0.154 milligrams of CO. Are you getting this?
Yes, sir.
Everyone is clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I hope that, before I finish this paper discussion, at least some people are remaining. Okay. So, after 28, 29 is a doubt. 29 is a good question, actually. You want me to discuss 29? Yes, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you see, this is a series radioactive reaction. So I have talked about, the reactions like A giving B and B giving C. This is a sequential reaction, lambda 1 and lambda 2. Okay. Now you see, initially the total number of nuclei is N0. This is 0 and 0. Finally, you are having Na nuclei remaining, and this is Nb and Nc you will be having after time t. Okay. So you see, since one nuclei of cadmium will be giving exactly one nuclei of indium, and one nuclei of indium is exactly giving one nuclei of tin. Okay. This means that I can say that initially if I was having N0, then that total number of nuclei will remain constant. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so if you started with 10 nuclei initially, and after t time you are having 5 nuclei of this and 3 of this, then this will be 2 only. Okay, because number of nuclei is not changing, they are just getting converted from one element to another in this case. Now, you see, if they are asking for percentage of stable nuclei, basically they are talking about the last element of the series which is stable, which is Nc. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
The percentage stable nuclei will be Nc by N0 into 100. Okay, so this is how it is going to be done. Now you see, the rate constants are not given, but half-lives are given. So if you know the half-life, then you can find the rate constants, lambda 1 and lambda 2. Lambda 1 will be what? ln2 by t half 1, which is 30. And lambda 2 will be what? ln2 by t half 2, which is 45. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you see, let us say that we represent a number n as number of half-lives. Okay. So let us say that we represent n as number of half-lives. Number of half-lives. Okay, then n is what? Basically, it is the total time by, time duration of one half-life. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you must be remembering this formula. N is equal to N0, 2 to the power n. Here n is the number of half-lives. Are you remembering it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you see, now you see when you are having a series reaction, then A will always decompose first order kinetics. In fact, each step is first order kinetics. So A is only decomposing as for lambda 1. So we can write n of A at some time t is n naught e to power minus lambda 1 t. Okay. So for B, NB is basically n naught lambda 1 by lambda 2 minus lambda 1 into e to power minus lambda 1 t by e to power minus lambda 2 t. This is the result which you have to remember. Are you getting my point? This I have given in the notes also. Along with the derivation I have given, but I don't expect you people to remember the derivation. But this you have to remember if you want to solve this question. Are you getting my point? But I can understand that it will be difficult for you people to remember things. But assume that if you are knowing this thing, then how will we proceed? Now you see, it is given that lambda t is basically what? Lambda into t will be ln 2 by t half into t. Can I write it like this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you see, what will be t by t half? It will be equal to n. Are you getting my point? T
Yes,
by
sir.
t half will be equal to n, number of half-lives. So I can write lambda t is equal to n ln 2. Can I write it or not? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
If I can write it like this, then I can write that e to power lambda t is equal to 2 to power n. Because if n goes this side inside the log, and I am taking e to the power lambda t, then it will be e to power lambda to power ln 2 to power n, which is basically 2 to power n. Are you getting this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so e to power lambda t is equal to 2 to power n. So you see, now I can use this in all these expressions. So you see, I can write n is equal to n naught e to power minus lambda 1 t as n naught by e to power lambda 1 t. It is n naught e by 2 to power n1. So n1 is corresponding to lambda 1 t. Similar, so you see, I have calculated n1 here. Number of half-lives in first case, since your total time is 90 minutes, for the first reaction, the number of half-lives of A will be 3. And for second reaction, number of half-lives of B will be 2. Are you getting this? N1 and N2?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, you see, it will be like N0 by 2 to the power N1. It is N0 by 2 to the power 3. It is N0 by 8. Okay. So, this is how we are finding Na. Up to this, it is clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us focus on NB. NB is this whole expression, and not lambda 1 by lambda 2 minus lambda 1 into e to the power minus lambda 1 t minus e to the power minus lambda 2 t. Okay. Now you see, what I can do is that I can divide lambda 1 with the denominator part. So that will simplify the expression. It will be n naught by lambda 2 minus lambda 1 minus 1. And you see, if I am writing it as 1 by e to the power minus lambda 1 t, I can write it as 1 by 2 to the power n minus 1. And 1 by e to the power minus lambda 2 t is equal to 1 by 2 to the power n2. Can I write this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because we have already written it here. That's why. Now you see, lambda is equal to ln 2 by t half. So this means that lambda is inversely proportional to t half. Okay, so I can write lambda 2 by lambda 1 as t half 1 by t half 2. Can I write it or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you see, it is like 1 by 2 to the power 3. N1 is 3 and N2 is 2. It is N0 by this ratio minus 1 into 1 by 2 to the power 3 minus 1 by 2 to the power square. Now, t half 1 by t half 2 is basically 30 by 45. It is 2 by 3. It is basically N0 by 2 by 3 minus 1 into 1 by 8 minus 1 by 4. And this will be equal to minus 1 by 8, and it will be N0 minus 1 by 3 into this whole thing. So minus minus will cancel out. So you will be ultimately getting 3 by 8 N0. Are you getting up to this step? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So you see, you have gotten Na, which is 1 N0 by 8, and Nb, which is 3 N0 by 8. So Nc will be N0 minus Na plus Nb. It will be 4 N0 by 8, so N0 by 2. So fraction of Nc will be 0.5. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is 29. Okay. 30, 31, 32. 30 is a doubt? Is 30 a doubt? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to explain it? Yes, no, something.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you see, it is given that one molecule, you have a solution of palmitic acid, okay, whose molar mass is given, and in benzene, and it contains 5.12 grams of that stuff, we call it PA, in 1 liter of the benzene solution. When this solution is dropped on a surface and benzene evaporates, you get a monolayer. Monolayer means you have exactly one atom thick, one molecule thick layer. Okay, now the total area which is covered is 480 centimeters square, and area occupied by one molecule is 0.2 nanometers square. Okay, so how many molecules will be there? First of all, calculate that. So you see, one molecule is 0.2 into 10 power minus 9 square meter square, nanometer square into meter square. So it will be like 0.2 into 10 power minus 18 meter square. So that is occupied by one molecule. So 1 meter square area is occupied by 1 by 0.2 into 10 power minus 18 molecules of palmitic acid. So you see, 480 centimeters square will be basically 480 to 10 power minus 4 meters square. So this will be equal to 480 into 10 power minus 4 by 0.2 into 10 power minus 18. Okay, that will be 2400 into 10 power 14 molecules. Up to this step, are you people getting the concept?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Once you
sir.
have gotten this, you can find a number of moles, because these many molecules are there. Divide by 6 into 10 power 23. You will get 4 into 10 power minus 7 moles. Okay. Now, what is the weight of palmitic acid, which is containing this many moles? So 4 into 10 power minus 7 into 256. So that will be 1.024 into 10 power minus 4 grams. Are you clear up to here?
Yes, sir.
If you are clear up to here, then the rest of the things is simple. You see, you have 5.12 grams of palmitic acid in 1000 ml. So you have this many grams of palmitic acid in 1000 by 5.12 into this many grams. So if you do the simplification, it will be 0.02 milliliters. Clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 31, 32, 31 all highly electropositive metals. So what is if you remember the PbCS Magenta series, then up to aluminum we will consider all the metals to be highly electropositive, so that they have to be, reduced by electrometallurgy only. Are you getting a point? Remember PbCS Magenta?
Yes, sir.
So I must have given this thing in the notes also. After this you have hydrogen, then you have Cu, Hg, Ag and Au and Ptic. So you see up to this, okay, up to this we use electrolytic reduction. Why? Because highly electropositive. From zinc to zinc, iron and nickel and tin, these are moderately electropositive. So we use carbon reduction. From lead, copper and mercury we use self-reduction because low electropositive. And these are like very low, so we use cyanide process. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
for hydrogen, what do you use?
Hydrogen is not a metal, no.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Now in 32, which of the aqueous solutions will dissolve silicon? Wherever silicon can form complex, it will dissolve in it. So HNO3 plus HF, it will dissolve. Silicon, why? Because it will form SiF6 2 minus. Yeah. First it will form SiF4, then it will form SiF6. See, this is similar to aqua regia. It will give nascent fluorine. Are you getting my point? And this will combine with silicon to give SiF4. SiF4 will react with HF to give SiF6 2 minus. Getting my point? Yes or no?
So the others will not form any complex.
H2SO4 and HNO3 will not form. With NaOH, you will get NaOH. You will be getting silicate ion, SiO3 2 minus. I think I have given this reaction in the notes also. Si plus NaOH, you get like Na2SiO3 plus H2. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So up to 32, it is done. There is only one question remaining, which is 25, which I will discuss as the last question. Okay. So 33. Any doubts? See, degeneracy basically represents a number of orbitals of equal energy. Okay. So if you have a single electron species, then all the orbitals in a given orbit are of the same orbit are of equal energy. So 2s and 2p will be of similar energies, 3s, 3p, 3d will be of similar energies. So for single electron atom, the degeneracy is given by n square. Okay. And you see, in case of a single electron species, the nth excited state, which represents n plus 1 orbit. Okay. And for that, for an orbit n, the degeneracy will be n square. Getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for a single electron system, degeneracy in first excited state. Now first excited state means n is equal to 2. So degeneracy will be what? 2 square, which is 4. Number of orbitals in a given orbit is n square. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for single so P, the degeneracy will be 4. So P will be corresponding to the fifth option. Are you getting this? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. For Q, now for multi-electron species, you see the Aufbau principle will decide the energy order of the orbitals. Okay, so in this case, for multi-electron species, all the subshells will be of different energy. Okay, so the degeneracy will be given by 2L plus 1, where L is the subshell azimuthal quantum number. Are you getting my point? For s orbital, it will be 0. For p orbital, it will be 1. For d orbital, it will be 2. For f orbital, it will be 3. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So you see, helium is a multi-electron atom. So if I'm talking about first excited state, for ground state, it will be 1s orbital. What is the first excited state? 2s orbital. Second excited state, 2p orbital. Third excited state, 3s orbital. Fourth excited state, 3p orbital. Fifth excited state, 4s orbital. Are you getting my point? See, the concept of excited state will be changing in this case. Are you getting this? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So you see, when you're talking about second excited state, this means we are talking about 2p orbital. The 2p orbital, the degeneracy will be 3. Because p orbital has 3 orbitals of equal energy. Getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
for
sir.
Q, the answer will be option 1. Okay. For R, you see third excited state is basically 3s. So degeneracy will be 1, and first excited state is 2s. Again, the degeneracy is 1. So both correspond to option number 2. And so you see the order is 5, 1, 2, 2. Answer is option C. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then that is very good. I'm so happy that you got this question. 34. See, in 34, I am just going to discuss all the questions one by one. You see, you are having a base and you are having a C double bond O. What will happen? This will attack here and you will be getting this type of compound. Addition, nucleophilic addition across C double bond O. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now you see, once this is formed, you see OH and H on the same or on adjacent carbons, you will get a double bond, minus of H2O. Okay, so you will be getting this compound. Okay, now you see, carbon is more nucleophilic than nitrogen. So what will happen that this will shift here and there will be a delta minus created here. This delta minus is going to attack the CH3COCH. So you will be getting this as the product. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now you see, nitrogen is having positive charge, so it can take this pi electron pair to itself, and H2 might be attacking the delta plus which is created here. If H2 attacks here at this carbon, we'll get OH and N. Okay, lone pair on N. Now you see, since you are having H2O here, you undergo hydrolysis. It is something like a hemiacetal type of thing. Only thing except for OH, you are having, N. Okay, so H2O will be attacking here, and this will be folding, and this will be getting out. So you'll be getting phi double bond O COCH3 plus this. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, This will be reacting with HCl because H plus is present. First it will form this, but this is basic, so it will form this. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So P answer will be 3 as well as 5. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now for Q, you see you are having LDA, which is the strong base. It will take an alpha hydrogen, you will get this minus. This will attack CH3COCl, you will get this. And on I2 NaOH, you should be getting this plus this. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So answer will be 1 and 4 for Q. Now for R, you see again you are using LDA. So this hydrogen will go out. You will get a negative charge. Then this time it is attacking an ester. So if it is attacking an ester, ETO minus or C will be going out. You will be getting C2H5OH plus this compound. So R will be giving 3 as the product. This one. Getting this?
Yes, sir.
And this is basically aldol condensation of this ketone. So if you are writing aldol product, it will be this. I think everyone knows how to write the aldol product. Yes or no? You create a negative charge here, this will attack here, and this will go out. You will get this. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So 34 is done. See, we have 4 more minutes left. If this gets disconnected, okay, please do not, go away. I will discuss each and every question before we take a pause. So after this, 35 and 36. Any option which is confusing or doubtful?
No doubt, sir.
36. Is simple. You see, in first case, A, they're asking which one will give a yellow precipitate with chromate. Okay, see, that will be only Ba2 plus. All the other metals will be following soluble chromate solutions. Only barium chromate is yellow precipitate. In option B, metal ammonia solution is formed by group 1 as well as group 2 metals. So it will be lithium, sodium, and beryllium. Okay, so B will be like T, R, and S. Okay. Lithium, what did I say? Lithium, sodium, and beryllium. Yeah. Barium will not form bronze color solution because it is too big in size. Okay. So, option C, you have a chloride which is giving a white precipitate with H2SO4. This means it is BaSO4. All the other 3 will be following soluble sulfates. And option D, you have a carbonate on which on heating is giving CO2. So always remember group 2 carbonates on heating will give oxides. All group 2 carbonates. And lithium is having diagonal relationship with magnesium. So lithium carbonate also on heating will give CO2. So it will be lithium, beryllium, and barium. Okay. So thermostability of group 2 carbonates will be increasing as you go down the road. Are you getting a point? 36 is clear to all of you? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with this we have discussed all of the stuff except for the last one. So I think we have like less than 1 minute. So it is difficult to finish it in less than 1 minute. So please do keep the patience. Join again. Okay. Let me search. Where is that? It is the last. Okay. You see, in 25, your question is given as this. The compound X is C10H12O3. Okay, so its degree of unsaturation is like 5. This gives us a hint that it might contain a benzene ring, because benzene ring is having degree of unsaturation of 4 and plus an additional pi bond. Okay, it is given that it is insoluble in water dilute. So you see the compound which is given to you is X, which is C10H12O3. It is given it is insoluble in HCl, aqueous NaFCO3 and water. Okay, so this means that it is having a big polar part. Okay, now it is having a big polar part, but it is soluble in dilute NaOH. So it is having a big non-polar part. Okay, means the alkyl part. And it is at the same time soluble in dilute NaOH, means it is X is a weak acid. Okay, so you know there are few compounds only which are insoluble in NaSCO3 but soluble in NaOH, which is a strong base. One of them is phenol. So X can be phenol. Phenol are weakly acidic. Okay, so this gives us first hint. Now it is given that a solution of X, when you are treating it with NaOH, okay, it should be NaOH here, you will be getting a residue and you will be getting a clear filter, solution. This solution, which is also your distillate, reacts with NaOI. Okay, means iodoform reaction, and it is giving a yellow precipitate. Okay, this means that distillate is containing a compound which gives a yellow precipitate. And it must contain CH3CHOH group. Are you getting up to this point? Yes or no?
Sir, it should contain CH3C double bond or no?
No, you see, this group also gives iodoform, and the corresponding alcohol will also give iodoform. This on oxidation will give this. Are you getting my point?
Yes.
Okay. So you see now the residue, it is given that the residue, alkaline residue. Okay. Because you are heating with NaOH, you will get alkaline residue. This alkaline residue, if you are treating with H+, you will get something like Y, which is a solid precipitate. Okay. Now, if you are treating Y with NaSCO3, if you are treating Y with NaSCO3, okay, so 1 minute. When the mixture was boiled, okay. This point is not there. Okay. See, when the mixture was boiled, Y was steam distilled. Now, Y is steam distilled means it is a orthoisomer. You see orthonitrophenol or orthocarboxylic acid, all will be having intra-hydrogen bonding. So they will have low boiling points, so they can be steam distilled. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you see, it can be steam distilled. So you see, this means it should contain an OH3. It was weakly acidic, so it must be containing a phenolic group. And on treatment with NaOH, it is giving a residue, okay, which is having a strongly acidic group. Means it contains both phenol as well as COH, and both are at ortho to each other. Okay, so you see, my acid should be orthohydroxybenzoic acid or salicylic acid. You see, it is given that it is containing, the resultant acid is containing 7 carbon atoms. Are you getting my point? So it's see, 1 to benzene ring will be having 6, and this COH will contain 1 more. 6 plus 1, C7 and O3. So my acid can be this. Are you getting this point? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So you see, my acid Y is this. See, this is COH. But you see, this acid is coming only when you have that alkaline residue. Before that, it was not an acid. Are you getting my point? Because if it were an acid, it would be reacting with NaHCO3 also. This means it is an acid derivative. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
And you see, distillate is containing a 3 carbon atom chain. Why? Because you see, here you are having 7 carbon, and in the original you have 10 carbons. This means the distillate should be having 3 carbon, and it is giving a haloform reaction. So it has to be CH3, CHOH, CH3, isopropyl alcohol, something like this. Are you getting my point? Okay, so you see, X on hydrolysis is giving Y plus this compound. And Y is this. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So X has to be this. You see, this will be a ester. Ester on hydrolysis, this strong will break, and you'll get alcohol, and so there is an OH here. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this is your X. So they're asking if number of rings in X and Y, it is 1 and 1, and degree of unsaturation of X and Y is C and D. Here also degree of unsaturation is 5, and here also, because 3 pi bond here plus 1 pi bond from C double bond O and 1 ring. So total degree of unsaturation here is also 5, and here also du is 5 on. So ABCD is the format in which we have to write 1155. Are you getting my point? Yes, no, something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you see, this is a typically long question, difficult to figure out under exam conditions. Okay. Even I took like 20 minutes to figure it out. But, you know, these questions you can avoid. Just by looking into these questions, you can avoid. Okay. It is better to leave this question and do other questions. Okay. Unless you are not doing a paper discussion, you don't need to waste this much time on a single question. Are you getting my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with this, I think the whole paper discussion I have done. Okay, I'm so much thankful that you people are still there. Okay, like 15 people are there. It started with like 53
Sir?
people. Yeah.
So what does Cl2 CCl4 do and what does Cl2 NaOH do?
See, Cl2 CCl4 is basically your chlorine in carbon tetrachloride. So this is just a solvent here. So you see, if you are having a double bond, then it will do chlorination. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
And if you are having Cl2 NaOH, okay, then it is like the haloform reagent. It is equivalent to NaOCl also. So in this case, it will depend on what species you are using. So if you are using what is happening? If you are using RCOCH3, then it will be giving a haloform reaction. So you get RCOH plus CSCl3. Getting my point?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Any other thing which you want to ask? Okay, so the paper discussion is officially done from my side. Okay, I think this paper was good, means it is a bit lengthy, but all questions are doable. Okay, at least 75 to 80% paper is doable. Okay, that is my assessment of this paper. Okay, so let me just stop the recording.